Hi, everyone. How are you? Alligator lives matter.
Doing good.
This is good news. What about you, Gray? How are you today?
I'm doing fantabulous. It's Wednesday. The week's halfway over, and it's towards the end of the day. So I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. What about yourself, Multi? How's your Wednesday going?
It's doing great. I just adore Wednesday because I work nights, so it feels like my Thursday, and I'm like, only 16 hours, and this is the weekend. I just adore that. And people are like, you're weird. I don't care. Anyway, um, today we
They're just
are
stereotyping you, and that's unfair.
Uh, that one I had it coming. That's amazing. Nice pun. So stereotypes and their effect. This is what's going on. Um, I know this one. I'm the one that came up with that one. I think. I might be wrong.
It was
Someone.
not me, so I knew it's one of you two. If you're taking credit for it, that does sound like a multi one. Kind of,
Yeah,
one of those psychological terms.
because I'm really good at stereotype. Is it you, alligator, or it's really me?
No, I didn't choose stereotypes. I think
Okay. Okay, well, it's me. So I was right at taking the credit for that. So maybe stereotype. So I will sound weird, but I'm pretty sure it's the same word in French as in English. So I will ask panel. Gray, what is a stereotype?
Um, it seems to be like a shortcut or like a simplification, if you will. So a categorization that you can easily put people in. It may not be the most accurate thing, but it's ways we kind of quickly categorize things, I would say. And it can be for the positive or the negative.
Yes, exactly. So it's the same word. Okay, so I wasn't that stupid. Perfect. What would you say is a stereotype, DC?
a stereotype for me is like a character in fiction or part of a show or film where he's meant to represent some diversity, like Native American stereotype, Black stereotype, that kind of stereotype.
Okay. Well, do you have more specific example of stereotypes, like characters, and you're like, that's a this or that stereotype?
Um, I would just look at some of the Family Guy characters like Glenn Quagmire or Cleveland Brown. I'd say those guys are kind of stereotypes. But yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
But couldn't you go like further than that and kind of say like gamers or people who enjoy Family Guy? Like there's a certain stereotype about them. It seems like it kind of just keeps expanding out, and like there's kind of more and more stereotypes, if you will.
Mm.
Um, I've seen a few Family Guy episodes, but it's been like at least 10 years. I haven't seen one.
So you're not one of those people, then. I get
no.
you.
So I have no true idea. But you, Gray, when I say stereotypes, what comes to your mind? Like, do you have any stereotype thingy?
Oh,
in
for
your
sure.
head?
So what DC was getting at, it is kind of the most common parlance of our time. Yeah, it is kind of where we're going with the stereotypes. Generally, it's like the negative stereotypes, like this person is this type of person. And then, generally it's not like a pleasant, flowery thing behind it. They're a really good type of person. Usually it's some sort of kind of, not necessarily negative, but it's a group of beliefs that are lumped to make a shortcut of what this person represents, or these beliefs represent this person in a way. Like, again, like gamer could be a stereotype. Uh, I don't know. When I was younger, the skater thing was a huge stereotype where, people didn't actually necessarily skate, but they were all lumped into that skater type because of like the clothing they wore, the way they talked. Essentially, like minor facts that are kind of in group preferences. It shows your group that you're part of it. Or if you're on the out group, it's I see these characteristics of that group of people. So I don't know. They're little like shortcuts that we make, but generally we kind of put a negative connotation on it. Correctly,
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah, I'm with you on that. And when I think of stereotypes, there's a one that is very how could I frame it? Not um really cool to have, and it's spread out through North America, so Canada and you guys. Africa being like that country with only like shitty houses and only poor people. That's like our stereotype of Africa. And like when you really go there, I know that because most of my co-worker are from Africa, so they kind of know their things, and a lot of them are kind of pissed that our idea of Africa is that really poor place where it's all shitty and broken when it's not really like that. Um, and they have actual cities, and it's just like America and USA. It's really like the set of belief. And when you really go outside of the cities and such, this is where you get to these more like poor house or stuff like that. But that's really like out of the cities, and there are cities in Africa. So that's our biggest
For
stereotype.
sure. And that's like a huge stereotype where we're talking about like different nations. But I mean, like, man, you could just be talking about like a few cities over. Like, I don't know if you're talking about, well, I guess like a few provinces over, you could say like, oh, that's Cowtown over there or whatever. Like, it's just the ranch lands. It's whatever flyover states. It's not really like the coast. I don't know. Like, is that necessarily a positive stereotype? I wouldn't say so, but we even do that with our neighbors. Not to dox myself, but there's a town very near me that everyone kind of assumes is much kind of lower on the socioeconomic, whatever you want to call that, scale or whatever. So it's just kind of seen as more of a rundown poor thing. And then there does happen to be like a homeless encampment just outside of it as well. That doesn't add to the stereotype. It kind of it adds to people's preconceived notions if you were to say you're from there. But we don't have to even go across the pond. We could just go to like our own backyards or a city away.
Yeah. Stereotypes are kind of bad.
Well,
And
maybe. They can definitely help you make quick decisions. Like if you have to process every piece of information that you get newly every single time, every single decision that you're taking is going to take you so long. There's going to be so much put into it where these stereotypes are kind of shortcuts on sort of ways that we can decipher the world around us. Like we do have preconceived notions, biases. It could be an evolutionary advantage to help us not have to take so much time with every decision, not have to put so much thought into everything. They are kind of shortcuts, but they are cognitive functions that do help us, but they can definitely get out of hand. And, they can be misconceptions, not just ways of kind of making sense of the world, but kind of ways that we could really be misseeing the world. But I don't know, man. We do a lot of stereotypes all the time, and a lot of it helps us in a quick recall way, if you will.
And that leads to the question that I will first ask to DC. What do you think could be one of the effects of having stereotypes?
I think one benefit is that any misconception can be understood. Like any misconception about this diverse of race can now be understood a bit better. To show more relevance to the race or gender. Overall, I think it could help bring us closer as like united.
That's an interesting take. Do you want to add something?
Oh, I apologize. If you wanted to add anything, DC, please do.
Oh no, I was not gonna add anything.
Cool. Then I just kind of like to piggyback off of what he was saying. I really agree. I think, you know, a lot of stereotypes, they kind of help for identifying in-group and out-group. Like, you know, these are the features or habits or whatever that the in-group has. We all kind of dress this way, whatever. It's ways to easily identify, you know, the group that you're in, but also a group that you're not necessarily in. Being aware of those can definitely help you realize, you know, some shortcuts that aren't necessarily beneficial that you're going to. They definitely could lead to some misconceptions, but I don't disagree that, you know, kind of embracing the positive stereotypes, that it might not be the worst thing. And, you know, it does seem like there is some beneficial thing from this whole in-group out-group thing. It's not just a bad thing. It is kind of, again, this evolutionary advantage. You know, to know who was in the group definitely helped, but you know, being aware of the stereotypes that you have, it definitely could help you navigate the world in a more, I don't know, honest way, I guess, instead of just going to these shortcuts. But yeah, being aware of them, I think, could help us make for a better coexistence, if you will.
That's interesting. Now I will sound like the crazy one, because when I was thinking of effect, I will bring back that freak thingy there. So because most of North America believes that this place is dangerous, this place is poor, this place doesn't really have true houses, which is a stereotype and a lie at the same time. Maybe one of the side effects, one of the consequence would be people being scared to go there, or people being like, oh yeah, I will stay away from that because I don't want to get robbed or something like that. So maybe that could be a big consequence to a stereotype. I will bring another a bit more personal example of another stereotype. So a lot of, like, I use dating apps. Well, I used to use dating apps. Now I'm just like using the Facebook dating app. It's not as bad as the others. As someone that used the others, on the one on with Facebook, I actually have discussion with people, which wasn't the case with the others, and I don't even need to pay or anything. So I think Facebook is good at doing it. But anyway, to get back on track, on that app, I see a lot of African, and most of them are Christian. And when you read to the description, most of the time they're like, if you don't believe in God, don't talk to me. So in my head, it's like, are you so condescending that you think that someone that doesn't believe in God is not worth your time? Is it what's going on there? So the effect of being so lashed onto your set of belief stop you from meeting other people. Any thoughts on that, DC or Gray?
No, I think you're right. That is a way of stereotyping. It sounds like they are stereotyping others, but they're using kind of the self-stereotyping as well, where they're saying, like, you know, I am this type of person, this religious person, so I must be with another religious person. I don't know. I'm not sure that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, it definitely does cut through some red tape or some... It could be a bad date if, you know, at the end of it, it gets to, oh, do you need, or do you possess this qualification that is a deal breaker for me? You know, that would suck, especially like, say you don't get to it the first date. Now you've done a couple dates, you like this person, you find out they have this deal breaker that they never brought up. I don't know. It sucks because it does feel like they are definitely stereotyping non-religious people and saying, like, you know, I couldn't possibly enjoy your company in this way because you don't have this one belief that I share. But I don't know. It sounds like they're doing some self-stereotyping and they see themselves a certain way. And so they must be with a partner that is a certain way. And like I guess we didn't talk about it, but that self-stereotyping thing, it's often what leads to self-esteem. Now, that could be negative or positive. If you have a bunch of negative self-stereotypes, it's like the number one thing in depression. But it could also lead to a bunch of positive things, and it could lead to you looking at yourself in a better light. Like, I'm one of these type of people. I'm an achiever, and that means that I have like all of these features. I don't know. It sounds like she is dealing with a bit of that. But I don't know if that's a bad thing in this case. If it really is a deal breaker, it might be good to have that in there. I can't think of too many deal breakers that I'd have in mind, but I'm sure there are some. You kind of know them when you see them.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, DC?
No, I'm kind of in the same boat with Gray.
That's cool. So I feel so unprepared. Sorry, guys. Like, things are so crazy. Like,
it's what we do, man. This is just a window to our mind, not a window to our research.
I like that response. It's like the best response. That's the most Gray response. Like, so now that we talked in length about it, do you have a question or something that came to your mind, Gray or DC? Whoever wants to go next.
I mean, I think stereotypes kind of get a bad rap, and fair enough. Like, oftentimes they are shortcuts, and they go to talking about a certain group of people a certain way, and it can be certainly negative. I don't know. When you so we kind of went huge with stereotypes we have about like different continents, different countries, but like it goes all the way down to ourselves and like what we actually think about ourselves. I don't know that all of that is necessarily a bad thing. It does seem like it is kind of this mechanism that we have built over time, but it definitely helps to kind of check your stereotypes to make sure that you aren't making these shortcuts in bad faith or inaccurate ones. It's always good to check your work, but that being said, I don't know, I'm kind of in favor of them, and I think often people are thinking, kind of what DC brought to it, and it's like, there are these negative things that we think about other people. It's like, true, they are that, but it's also what you think about yourself, like how you'd categorize yourself in any way. That's probably a stereotype. I don't know. I guess I'm a bit indifferent to it. I think it can be a good thing and a really nice shortcut for us, but don't always use the shortcut. Make sure you know how to actually get to the other place without using that shortcut.
Another stereotype is, or it's more like a stigma, or I don't know how we could call it, but men cannot be victims of assault, or cannot be don't know how to remain YouTube friendly. They cannot be like attacked by women.
Generally, men are not victims. Yeah. You're right. That's a stereotype, and it seems like a really negative gendered stereotype. It definitely sucks. I think that leads to some of that kind of stuff that gets labeled like toxic masculinity and stuff. It would be great if we didn't kind of have this thing where you can't feel this way, or this can't possibly affect you because of any sort of stereotype. People are pretty unique. I'm pretty sure almost anyone could feel almost any situation. So it's really shitty that we kind of put these stereotype boxes around people and say, you can't have that experience. Sadly, a lot of us do.
Yeah, and the effect of that kind of stereotype would be when a man is a victim, he's not really taken seriously. And the other end, like, there are victims out there, but sometimes they are ashamed, and because they're not taken seriously, because these stereotypes are just so strong, they don't want to talk about it.
Sometimes it's that self stereotype too. That's what I meant by the toxic masculinity. Like, but men don't get affected by this, so I can't report this, or nobody would believe me. All of that, it seems a bit toxic, as opposed to, I'm experiencing this, I should get help for this, I should report this, whatever the next thing would be. But sadly, like you said, it's just not seen as that happens to men. That's a horrible stereotype. That one's not positive.
And another side effect of that is we have a lot less resources for men in these situations than women. And this is sad. Aren't we supposed to be equals? That's what society keeps telling us, but why don't we get the same kind of treatment? I don't know how it is in USA, but I know it is like that in Canada. Like there's a lot of housing and places to help and support women in that kind of need, where it's more emotional need and like physical security, if we can call it that way. But like there's not a single place like that for men.
Yeah, I think in the US we had a handful, and I think almost all of them have been shut down, if there are any. There's like a general shelter that you could go if you had like a housing need, but it's not known as like a safe place. It sounds like much of it is the same. And it just sucks because at least there you guys might be able to get some sort of reasonably priced mental help. I know when I didn't have like insurance here, it was astronomical. When I finally decided to do something about my depression and like talk to someone, it was just like, holy shit, it's $500 to talk to somebody for like a half hour. Like, okay.
Where?
Crazy.
In USA?
In the US. Yeah, man. Like it's pretty crazy here. But if you were going through, some sort of issue, there is a lot of kind of gendered help out there. So I don't know. I wouldn't think that you'd run into the same issues as a woman, which, sucks. We do have that stereotype that men are supposed to be strong mentally, physically, whatever. We don't need help. But, I think everyone needs some help sometimes.
Yeah. Like 5 years ago, I was going through therapy and it was like $100 an hour, something like that. So
damn,
it's much better
That's
than
still
you guys.
Expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, but it's better.
Well, the emergency one, and like it was just emergency because I didn't have an actual like therapist or whatever, so they call it that so that they whatever. It's like the assessment thing, but they call it an emergency thing so they can charge more. Anyway, it was like $500 and it was like 30 minutes of an assessment. And then I had to say everything else once I finally got the actual like referral to go to a next person. And then that shit was expensive. So I don't know, man. It sucks. I would think that there is more help out there for women. Maybe I'm being completely incorrect in that, but I know that there are shelters that also have therapists and social workers that would help you with like issues that you happen to be going through. I didn't find anything like that for me, man. It sucked and it was really expensive, but yeah, I think that's due to stereotypes, and maybe that's because men are less likely to actually go for that help or say they need it. Again, that would be part of that self-stereotype. Telling yourself you can't do that because you're a man. You wouldn't do that. That doesn't seem like the most positive stereotype. So, I don't know. I still come out kind of a mixed bag on the stereotypes. I think some of them could be really good shortcuts, but I think some of them do hold us back in certain ways.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what to add. I feel like we covered that in length. Do you want to add something, DC?
Not really.
What about you, Gray?
Sure. I think stereotypes are definitely a positive when it comes to like comedy. Again, it's a shorthand. It's a way that you can say a joke and then you use like a stereotype, and people are they're able to get on board with you quickly. You can get a shortcut to get there, and it's often funny. So I don't know. It's not all bad, but if you're doing it in a hateful way, yeah, that definitely comes off. I've seen my fair share of stereotypical comedy that is not good. But I don't think we touched on that at all. But I think a lot of that works in comedy because it is kind of this shorthand, this kind of group identification. And
satire.
It kind of makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
It's like to mock something, not like, or to mock the idea. Like in a lot of comedy, when they address stereotype and such, it's to critique them and say, oh, they are stupid.
Sure.
I
But
think
like
that
any
aspect is
character,
great.
you know, like even like a cowboy or whatever, like that's a stereotype where, you know, like you're wearing the chaps, you've got the hat, you've got like the rope or something. Like any character you're gonna do, like especially like in a comedic way, it's generally a stereotype. It's like a shorthand, like a quick way that you can be like, oh, okay, this person is this type of person. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Some of it helps us identify really quick what's going on. Like, oh, they're in a suit of armor. Okay, this is like a medieval sketch. It's probably a knight or whatever. I don't know. It tends to help us out in shortcuts, which could be a good thing. But if you're not checking it, I could see it being real evil. So again, mixed bag. I use way too many stereotypes, I'm sure, but I try to check myself on it.
Like all the religious people, they bomb themselves. Alakba. That kind of stereotype is so stupid and
Kind of a
disgusting.
stereotype. Yeah, it went to like a horrible place in the U.S. like after a certain tragedy. Yeah, like it was definitely used to the wrong degree there. It kind of it got vicious, but I don't know, a shorthand where I'm sure you could use that same type of thing in a joke, and you know it would come off okay. I get it. That's the stereotype. You know, satire is a thing, and so is parody. It makes sense to me. You're generally using shorthands or stereotypes for those, and oftentimes it works well, especially if it's done in a non-hateful way. But you know, you can generally tell the tone when it comes off in a much darker way.
Have you seen the TV show 24?
Oh yeah, Jack Bauer, man.
Just that, like, eventually I will get to cover it in one of the future podcasts. I will start probably next year. I don't think I will start it this year, but in
Yeah,
that
that show
podcast,
is full of stereotypes,
yeah, in that
but it's a fun
podcast,
show.
season 2 will have some Jack Bauer action. But yeah, stereotypes in this show are just wow. I cannot wait to rewatch because the last time I've seen it was like 15 years ago, 16 years ago. I was much younger and naive. I was just like, oh, cool action, cool pew pew. But I'm sure looking back, this show would have like some of the worst stereotype ever. Like I remember some of the early season had mainly like Arabs blowing up stuff or something
Yeah,
like that.
I think that was a theme in the show. Fair enough.
Um, yeah. Anyway, um, I'm looking forward for uh that new podcast somewhere in 2025 when I will have the time. Um, I wish we had like more hours in a day. You know, like 25 hours. That'd be great. Anyway,
It'd be really
um,
nice.
do you want to add something, DC? I guess not. What about you, Gray?
No, I think I'm good. I think I've been piggybacking off of DC this whole time, just kind of agreeing with what he's saying and then adding a little bit to it. But yeah, man, it was a fun conversation.
Oh yeah. Did you ask anything, Multi? My internet went out.
Yeah. Do you want to add something?
Just like what Grace said, I really don't have anything to add.
Perfect. Well, I think it's the perfect moment to ask you, DC, what do you have going on your end of the internet?
I have some video plans, but I decided I'm going to take a bit of a break because I've been consistently running out of ideas and all that. But I will try and get some videos uploaded. But yeah.
Perfect. Anything else?
Not really.
What about you, Gray?
Yeah, I should have some videos out soon, but yeah, every Thursday on that darn kiddos channel, The Thinkers. It's a bunch of people from a bunch of different continents, at least 3, getting together and disagreeing on almost everything. Tomorrow we're going to do a very politically infused think, a diagram of people's kind of beliefs without arguing, but Yeah, in light of certain recent events, I guess we're going to get kind of international views on it. But yeah, good times. So it should be a little less political in the future. But yeah, we got to think about Destiny kind of blowing up the internet with his takes. And, what is the concept of too soon? When could you joke about something? Um, so yeah, join us for a think on That Darn Kidda's channel on YouTube. Just search That Darn Kidda every Thursday. What about you, Multi? What do you have going on your channel, sir?
Naruto uploads. Outside of that, Friday we got the Acolyte and the Boys. The last talk about it, I say that like that because it's the last stream, but I plan on making one extra video about the Acolyte, which will be "It's Not for the Star Wars Fan." That's the title of my Acolyte video, and I will have some guests on to appear here and there if Gray is willing to show up and answer 9 questions. Then Gray will be one of the many guests. I know Mandalore will be a guest for that video. I'll ask people around if they want to just hop in and talk about Star Wars in general and the Acolyte versus Star Wars, like how everything is like affecting each other, if we can call it that way. It's really hard to explain. Anyway, that's one of the two video, and the other video is how The Boys season 4 was a return to form. Because in my book, it was a return to form. It felt like I haven't seen the last episode because obviously it's coming out tomorrow. But even if it's a bad episode, that would mean it's the only bad episode the entire season had. And for me, that's a good thing because season 2 and 3 had many bad episodes in my books, or like mediocre or below average. But this season, I just had a blast. So the video will be The Boys season 4 is a return to form because that was a good season. Anyway, outside of that, next Tuesday we got Red Blue Podcast season 6 bonus 1. That bonus will cover long legs, bike riders, and the watchers. Spoiler, I adore long legs. I've seen it twice in theater, and to piggyback on what you said on Charles' show, Gray, you're right. When you go see it again, you see more stuff. I already
Yeah, I
had.
still want to see it a second time. Yeah, I'm jealous of you, man.
I already had a lot of great notes considering I took these notes after going at the theater, so like at least 2 or 3 hours after the presentation and such. And the first draft of my notes were really good. But then after that second viewing, I kind of realized even more things, and I did note a lot more. And I want to see this movie again. I will go that far to say it's probably my favorite 2024 movie. And you will really earn something if you go rewatch. And I invite you, even if I know you cannot really make it because we talked about it backstage, I invite you to go watch my stream afterward, the playback or live or whatever, like when you got the time, because I think we may have seen different movies, and I don't think I'm that crazy. I think I understood the movie very well, and again, I plan on rewatching it. So my Friday this week will be like Twisters and then Long Legs again, because that's just a great movie. So highly recommend. Like, people need to push that movie. People need to go see it because I think it's good. And that debunks the narrative of the cinema are dead, or cinema is bad, or there's no movie worth your time. It's a goddamn lie. There's long legs. Anyway, outside of that, Red Blue Podcast is still on break, but I got a few gaming stream. We just finished Splinter Cell last weekend, so coming next, Advance Wars and other games. I don't know yet. Anyway, I think that's it for today, and we are out.